Hi, in this video we are going to learn how to write a CER lab report. In our virtual physics course, you're required to demonstrate proficiency in developing and conducting a scientific argument. So the claims, evidence, reasoning report is such a structured assignment that helps you do the same. So let's take an example from our course and look at how to write the report. So the first report that comes up on Physics A is under Lab Motion with Constant Acceleration. So having looked at some of the reports, I feel that some of you have trouble identifying what this argument is based on. So notice under instruction, it clearly says that you will write a claims, evidence, reasoning statement based on your virtual lab simulation you just finished. So that means the CER lab report is always going to be based on the virtual lab in that section. So if we go to this virtual lab under this is the virtual lab, and notice that they start with a question. So in the CER lab, there are 4 sections. Leaving aside the title is just an introduction to what you're doing, so you may or may not write the title. But there are 4 sections: the question, claim, evidence, and justification. We're going to see how to write these 4 sections. So going back to the lab or the lesson question already tells you what the question for this lab investigation is. So all you have to do is to take that question and make sure it is well focused, and you can just copy that down as your question. For example, this question is clearly focused because it is telling how does an object's position and velocity change as the object accelerates, which is the purpose of the investigation. So it is always good to write the question as an exploration between 2 variables, like how does this variable change as you change this variable. That is usually the form of most of the questions. So let's write down that question here. So how does the position and velocity of an object change? I'm going to add one more term saying with time as the object accelerates. So this is what we call as a focused question. Then coming to the claim must always answer the question. So if my question was how does the position and velocity change, then the claim must directly answer this question. Since there are 2 parts to the question, I can make the claim in 2 parts. So in the first part, I'm going to say the position of an object, and I'm going to leave this blank because I'm going to allow you to think and write the answer to this question. So the position of an object, you are going to say here, how does it change with time as the object accelerates? Now you can be, it is good to be really specific, like you can say what happens to the position and explain in terms of a graph if you want to, or in terms of an equation if you want to. The second part of the question is how does the velocity change? So you're going to say the velocity of an object, and I'm going to leave the answer blank, so you can say increases with time or whatever happens as the object accelerates. So the claim is just going to answer the question. So then we go to the evidence part. Under the evidence, you are going to collect data that will help you prove your claim. So that means we first have to decide what our variables are. So you will decide what your independent variable is and what your dependent variable is. Because you have 2 parts in this question, so how does the position change with the time? How does the velocity change with time? You have to do this in 2 parts as well. So for the first part, I can say that time is what I'm manipulating, so it is the independent variable, and position is what I'm looking at as to how it changes, so that becomes your dependent variable. So if you go back to your simulation, this is the gizmo that you are using to collect the data. So I set the fan speed at low, and I'm going to run the simulation and collect the data. So we always want to organize the data into tables. And if you look at this, there is already the data that is organized into tables. So if you want position time data, there is your position time data, and there's already a graph right there. So what you can do is use this to get a screenshot, and you can copy the data table by using export data, and you can also get a screenshot and copy the graph, and those can be your evidence. For the second part of the question, where you want to know how the speed changes with time, click speed, and then you already have the data for how speed changes with time and a graph as well. So this is what goes into the evidence section. All the data that you collect in order to answer the question becomes your evidence. Then you want to, under the justification, so under evidence, let's repeat this one more time. You want data tables. You want the variables declared, and where possible you are going to plot graphs. And then under justification, you want to look at your evidence and explain how your evidence is going to answer your question. You are going to look at what is the scientific concept that helps you understand how your evidence is proof for your claim. For example, if your position changes with time in this fashion, you may want to think about how can you justify this? What is the reasoning behind this? If an object is accelerating, what is it doing? What is the definition of acceleration? And how does that tell you, how does that confirm that position should change with time in this fashion? So the reasoning along with the science concepts that explains your evidence as to how it is helping you answer the claim goes under justification. So this is how you write a CER report. So remember to put units in your data tables, remember to title your axis on your graphs, and remember to write complete sentences when you are doing justification. Where possible, under justification, use mathematical equations in support of your claim, and state laws or concepts that helps you support your claim. So this is what you will do. To go back again to just reiterate, the scientific argument is always based on the virtual lab you completed in that section, and it is very likely that you will already see the question written out for you in that lab section, so you follow that and fill up the other sections. Hope this would help you complete your CER report. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach me.